If you're building your ABA company and you're tired of guessing, this is for you. We built the EBCBA blueprint to give you real structure, systems, and support without the fluff. Details are in the description.
All right, welcome everyone. We've got Jackie Vick on here. We're going to be talking about leadership. Jackie helps mission-driven, founder-led companies build businesses that work with them, not against them, with a background in operational excellence and a track record for successfully growing and scaling ABA companies. And she now partners with leaders to reduce burnout, delegate with confidence, and grow without losing sight of their purpose. Jackie's all about helping people stop rowing alone and start building teams that move in the same direction together. So I think that the title is very impactful, like teaching people how to delegate and empower them and get into a position where your business is working for you and not the other way around, where it's not just sucking up all of your time and taking the joy out of it. And I look forward to learning myself. Jackie, you want to take it away?
Sure. Thanks for the intro, Josh. Yeah, the introduction says it all about what I do. Sometimes I summarize it for people by saying I help business owners diagnose and treat their pain points, because every business and every business owner has got pain points and you can't get away from it. But as you mentioned in the intro, I've got a really special place in my heart for ABA companies, autism treatment companies, mental health companies, those companies that really serve other people. Typically, those owners are so busy serving other people that they neglect themselves. And so I'm kind of the person that reminds them and helps them stay balanced and stay focused so that they can continue to do the great work, because way too many people bow out. They get burned out and they get frustrated and they bow out, and that doesn't help serve our clients, right? So I want to do whatever I can to support people and keep their businesses going and functional. And that requires business owners to not row alone, as the title of our time today talks about. I've got visual, and I'm going to share that slide deck. And I do have a guide that I want to share with all of the group members. So I'll have a QR code at the end that they can download that with. But I'd like to start with the question and just get a read. So if you're watching this later, it's just maybe raise your hand to yourself or give yourself a nod if you would like to grow your business and have your business be sustainable without feeling like you're burning out and sacrificing that quality time with your family and your loved ones and all those things that matter most. If that's you, give a nod, raise your hand. Yep, you're there. Josh, like you guys, you and Derek are doing just amazing things. And I'm sure that there are moments of burnout that you have too. The idea of running a business doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice all those other things. So I want to make sure that everybody hears that and knows that. And the sad piece is that's where a lot of people are at. So that's why I like to talk about this. So really, I call that rowing alone, because when there's nobody that cares about your business more than you care about your business, but that doesn't mean that you should be out there doing it all yourself. If you are the person who's doing it all yourself, what it means is that you really don't have time for all those things that matter most. They're business owners who sacrifice a lot of their family time. And I'll tell you what I was sacrificing. I would tend to give it all to business and all to my family. And the one that was suffering was me. I gained a lot of weight. My health started having implications. And I just made a decision that I needed to do something different and I needed to focus a little bit more and have that balance. So really where that starts is with vision. So every business owner has a vision, has a passion, has something that they want to do when they start their business. And the team needs to know about what that vision is. It shouldn't just be up in your head, and it shouldn't just be on a piece of paper if you've developed like your strategic plan. It should really be a vision that is shared and owned by all. But the way to do that is to make sure that you know what that vision is. So essentially, where are you going? What is the end goal of the business? If you were to dream 5 years out, 10 years out, what is the thing? What do you want your business to look like? And that at the end of that, and then share that with other people. The other piece to share is not just like where you're going and what it looks like, but why does it matter? Why does it matter if you have established, let's say you currently have one location and are serving like 10 or 20 children, and your dream is to have 3 locations and serving 50, 60 children. So talking about that, but then also telling people, why does that matter? I have often said that the thing that keeps me up at night is kids not getting service. So that's why it matters, right? It for business owners often is, in order for your company to be in existence and grow, it matters because kids are getting the help that they need. And then the other piece of sharing that vision is helping people really understand why they are an important piece of that. So here's our vision, here's why it matters, and here's how you fit in. If you're an RBT, if you're a BCBA, if you are a scheduler, a biller, how do you fit into that vision so that they understand? A client of mine was in Saudi Arabia and shared that she said, you would love it there because the entire country has a strategic plan. And every department in the country knows how they contribute to that plan. She said, you go to McDonald's, people in McDonald's in Saudi Arabia will tell you how they contribute to the entire plan of the country, which is pretty cool, right? Obviously, the countries run differently than we are, but that's what you want in a business. And that's how you get things done, is by having that vision and having everybody understand how they fit into that.
That's one of the reasons that we got involved in ABA in the first place as an IT company. Is IT never really felt mission driven until we started to get involved with this. And now we're not clinicians. We don't really have a direct impact on the autism community, but we're able to empower and enable the people who do provide the therapy to help more people. And that's the organizational strategy seems to be like the biggest gap in this field. And we saw that really this whole project that we got into, the reason why we're doing these live streams and we have the Facebook group and everything, really stemmed from Derek has 2 nephews that are autistic, and basically, long story short, one of the kids, their dad had a job opportunity that would have doubled their income, allowed mom to be a stay-at-home mom, and that's huge when you have a special needs child.
Yes.
And where the dad needed to move to take the job, there was no ABA available. And so he had to turn that down to stay where they're at. So it was like this huge life-changing opportunity that they just couldn't take. So that's what drove us to create the Facebook group, to do these live streams, and having a good organizational strategy is what allows us to do that. The organizational strategy thing isn't just about ABA, it's business in general. The reason why we run an IT company, but we're also able to do all of this stuff, we spend about 10% of our time on the IT company because we have a good organizational strategy there. The IT company pretty much runs itself, like very low interaction. So we're able to spend most of our time on this project that has turned into its own entity. So like all of this stuff, there are some things about business that are like the laws of physics. They apply to any business. Yes. And but that's like the biggest gap in the ABA field that we've seen, is those laws of physics. They don't really teach you that when you go to school to learn how to provide the therapy.
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? Yeah. And that you guys are mission driven too, right? You're very focused on how you're helping ABA companies and how you fit into their success. So yeah, that's fantastic. There was a company that I worked with before, and it was interesting because you would think that everything would just go like clockwork. And this kind of goes to your point of like organizational structure, which is the work that I do, is to help people bring that organizational structure. And that's the work that you guys do with ABA Impact. So this company you would think that everything would go like clockwork. They had amazing clinicians, very passionate leadership team, but they couldn't seem to like move things forward. It's not that they weren't doing great things. They were doing great things, but they were stuck and they wanted to do more. They wanted to have more clients, have a bigger impact, but they just couldn't get that momentum going. They couldn't really get rolling. And when we started to dig in, what I discovered is the leadership team had a vision and they knew what they wanted to do, but nobody else knew what that vision was. And so therefore, nobody knowing the vision, nobody also knew how they could contribute. So when we worked on that together and the vision became very clear and the rest of the team heard about it and got on board and started rowing together, magical things happened. So it starts with that vision. The next piece that really helps people move forward and let go of the oars a little bit and help other people row is really kind of doing a self-assessment. So here are the questions, and they're just true or false questions. First question, everything falls apart unless I'm directly involved. True or false? All decisions come through me. True or false? I spend more time fixing problems than really leading strategy. True or false? My team waits for me to tell them what to do and what that next step is. And then I check in at work even when I'm supposed to be off. So if you answered true to 3 or more of those, you're rowing alone. Reality is you are rolling alone. And like I said, I've been there. There are many people that are there. Frankly, I am in a lot of Facebook groups, ABA Facebook groups. I see this all of the time. People are exhausted and they're tired. They're not making enough money to pay themselves. They really have a job. Their business is their job. But it really doesn't have to be that way. And so in addition to the vision, we really want to make sure that business owners know how to delegate and delegate well. I'll share another story a little bit later about somebody who didn't delegate well and the impact that had. But for here, there's a book called Let It Go by Emily Morgan that I highly recommend. And she's running a 3-part series right now on the science behind delegation. And she's got some great scholars on. I listened to the first webinar. The second and third hasn't happened yet. And so if anybody's interested in that, just ping me and I will get you the information on that. I'm sure Emily would love to have you join. But it starts with that delegation piece. And sometimes delegation gets a bad rap. I had one person, a client that I was working with, they didn't want to give anything away because they felt like they were dumping on other people. And we talked about there's a lot of benefits of delegation, and it's not just benefit for you as the business owner, as the business leader. Yes, you have less stress. Yes, you have more time on your hands in theory, but we'll also tell you that something else will come in and fill it up. But really, delegation is a gift to your team. You're giving them the gift of trust. You're giving them additional knowledge. You're building their skills. You're building their confidence. And you're also increasing their motivation. And then the last kind of area, the benefit for delegation is the company. So the company builds more capacity, can do more things when everybody's working together. So it fosters that teamwork. People are more productive. They're more efficient. They're happier because they know where the company is headed and how they can contribute. And there's self-satisfaction that happens with it. And then innovation. There's new ideas and things that come forward that we don't think of when we let other people help us out and do a little bit more. There is a statement, a formula, if you will, that if somebody can do it 80% as well as you can, you should not be doing it. So there's sometimes as owners, as business leaders, we own it because we feel like nobody can do it as well as we can. And it's probably true. But if somebody can do it 80% as well as you can, you should let it go. And the act of delegation really just builds trust and it builds relationships. And when everybody's kind of working together, more gets done.
Yeah, and we practice that at our company with ABA Impact because it started off. So Derek is our CEO. I'm the CXO. So I deal with all of our sales, marketing, customer service, all of the experience stuff. And then I have someone who works under me. And Derek had a vision and the way that the company runs and all of that and how things, we have our one source of truth, which is if you want to know what days we have off throughout the year for holidays, you go to this one document and you just search Martin Luther King Jr. Day or whatever it is. And it'll tell you like what our standard operating procedures are for certain situations. What happens if you get a certified letter? Like, where does that go? Things like that. If Derek had his way of doing things, but he's the CEO, so he has all of these other things that he has to do as CEO. So when he brought me on, I was able to focus on the experience part of the business. So when I first started out, I wasn't even 80%, but I got to that. But now I've exceeded his abilities at being that because that's all I have to focus on. And then going even further, when we brought on Ricardo, who's our main outreach person, when we started doing this ABA Impact stuff, I had my way of doing it. And now I give him my version of the call script or whatever the plan is. I'm like, hey, go try this and then let me know how it works. And I expect him to come up with something better than what I gave him because he's the one that's focused on that one little piece of the experience part where I'm focused on all these other things. So being able to delegate in the beginning, it might seem scary and it might be difficult to even communicate like what you want that person to do. But once they do it for a while, they'll probably end up doing a better job than you will, as long as you give them the right guidance from like what you want done. It might be a little bit painful, but it's worth doing because now I don't have to make any of the phone calls and the follow-ups and stuff like that. Ricardo handles all of that. And I do mostly the meetings and stuff like that. And Derek doesn't even have to really touch it except for just to see how we're doing now. Whereas in the past 5 years ago, before I started working for him, he had to do everything. It was pretty much just him and a few technicians. So yeah.
Yeah, love it. Such a great example. And you brought up a really good point that I didn't talk about is when Derek delegated some things to you, it allowed him to focus on less. And when you delegate things to Ricardo, it allows you to focus on things less, and then Ricardo can focus on his things. One of the things that I tell clients all the time is you need to put your attention on fewer things. When we're trying to focus on everything, we're not doing a great job at anything. And so there's a book called The One Thing. And what you really want to do is minimize where you're spraying your attention and figure out what the important things are. And then if you can delegate the other things to somebody else, fantastic. Or sometimes I just need to go in a parking lot. Like, really, how important is it? I was working with a client last week and cash flow is a problem. And so we were talking about all the things that are impacting cash flow. And we brainstormed, we listed them, and then I had her assign a weight to it, 1 to 10. Where is the most, what are the things that are impacting cash flow the most? And then, because she was trying to focus on, there were 7 things. She was trying to focus on all 7 things. I'm like, time out. You need to stop and focus on the thing that's having the greatest impact. She did that. And now once she figures on the thing that, or finishes up with the thing that's having the biggest impact, she can go to the next thing and then the next thing. But you can't focus on everything all at one time. You're too scattered and you get too frustrated and burned out again.
Yeah, chase 2 rabbits, catch neither.
Yeah, exactly.
I've heard that saying before. Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if you can catch one, but you sure as heck aren't going to catch any if you're chasing 2. The other thing that I wanted to share is some perspective on different levels of delegation. You don't have to give away everything. So there's a framework that Michael Hyatt made popular in his leadership training. And it really gives language to how much authority you do delegate. And it helps with you being very intentional with what you delegate and how you delegate it. And the guide that I'm going to share with people is got more information, but essentially, first level is do exactly what I say. So there's no autonomy. It's very task focused. Just go do this. The second level is research and report back. So the leader's still leading it, but they're giving some delegation to the team member to go get information. And it's going to help the leader because they don't have time to go get all that information. Then come back, but the leader makes a decision. The next level is research and recommend. So go research it and then come back to me with your recommendation. So you're giving more and more responsibility. And then the next one, the fourth one is make the decision and then inform me. So here the leadership has a lot of visibility, but you're also giving a lot of autonomy and trust to whomever you're delegating it to. And then the last level is somebody's got full accountability and they just own it fully. Josh, one of the things that you had talked about was there's ways to delegate. And in the guide that I'm going to share, there's 10 questions. I'm going to just highlight a couple here today, but the questions help people delegate well. And so let me share what I think I've got 5 of those questions. So this one is really important. You don't just delegate and give something to somebody and ask them to do it. You have to really describe what it looks like when it's done, because we have this vision, we have this understanding. That does not mean that the next person has that understanding of what we're looking for. So get very clear on what done looks like. The second component is, again, telling them why it matters. Because if you've got somebody chasing a task and they don't understand why it matters, they may not be giving it their all. So we want them to really invest and have that understanding. Being very clear on who the best person is to own this, not just giving things away willy-nilly, but really making sure that the person that you're giving it to has the skills and has the capacity to do it. And then the next question is, what resources or authority will they need in order to accomplish that? So if they need some type of resource and they don't have it, they're not going to be successful. Or if they need decision-making authority and they don't have that authority, again, they're not going to be successful. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a bit, but you don't just want to, particularly unless it's like a level 5 person where you're giving them full authority, you want some check-in points to make sure that they are successful with what they're doing and that you're still aligned. You don't want to micromanage because nobody wants to be micromanaged. But if you go into it with an understanding then of what it looks like to be done, and you go into it with an understanding of we're going to have these checkpoints, people are fine. They don't think about that as micromanagement, but they think about that as support. I'd encourage listeners to think about maybe one task on their plate that somebody else could handle for them. Think about who might be able to own it. And then maybe just going through some of these questions here. What does done look like? Why does it matter? Who's the best person?
Yeah, one example from ABA Impact is that it's the people running ABA Impact. It's Derek, me, and Ricardo. Like it's just us 3. We're managing a community of soon to be 12,000 people.
Wow.
So what that's turned into is we're looking at diversifying and being more than just a Facebook group. And we've already gone a little bit outside that. We have our exclusive community. We have some things here and there on social media. We've got the YouTube channel, but it's becoming a lot. We've got a website, we've got the Facebook group, we've got the public facing Facebook page. We've got all of these different moving parts to the point where now Derek and I are looking at this and we're like, we need to get a web presence person. Like we need a whole other person to delegate all of this to. And but it can't be as simple as saying just go manage our online presence. what does that mean? So all
Right.
of these, and these are questions that this is validation for us as well, because this is how we write our SOPs for the different job roles and responsibilities that we have. So like we really do practice what we preach in the blueprint and what you're saying, because we can't just stick someone in that position and just assume that they can manage our web presence just because maybe they have a background in online marketing or something like that and just say, we'll just go handle it. How do we want it handled? And all of these questions are super important. So
Yeah. Yeah, and there's more in the guide. You bring up like a couple of topics there. One of making the decision to add a team member. Sometimes the businesses that I support are solopreneurs, and then it becomes a really challenging decision to make a decision to add another person, because again, it goes back to cash flow and being able to make sure that you can give that person a paycheck when they need it or when they deserve it. So that's an important decision. The other thing that you bring up is like job descriptions and SOPs. One of the things that I encourage people to do when they're making job descriptions is having it be, again, short. It's 5-page, 3-page job descriptions that end with other duties as assigned, tends to just get looked at during hiring, and then that's it. But really having a functional job description that outlines what it is that person should obsess over. So here are the 5 things we need you to obsess over, and here's what it looks like. And then here's what success looks like. So I encourage people to assign metrics to those obsessions so that when you're supporting your teammate, you can say, here's what it looks like, and here's what success looks like. If it's a number or a percentage, that metric can let them know if they are being successful or not successful, and letting you know if they need supports or anything else from you.
yeah, and it could even let them know if this is even the right job for them before they even
Yeah.
start too. Because they can look at like, is this even attainable for me personally? Like I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to, because you might get somebody that they get into the job without, you don't have those things on the job description, and then they get in there and then you slap them with the metrics, and then they're like, well, this wasn't part of my
Yes.
job description, literally, and now they're overwhelmed and then they don't perform. I think that's super important.
Yeah. There was a job description that I looked at years ago, and it had all of those details in there. And as I looked at the details, I was like, I can't do this. This is the expectations that they have. I'm not going to be able to do it. So I love that you can also use those job descriptions to get the right person in too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, especially when budgets are tight, you want to increase the friction on who's getting through that funnel, because you could do a bunch of interviews and you're not really sure who's the right fit, and it takes time to do interviews. So that's a time vampire in itself.
Indeed. Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you're putting enough friction there, that way it's filtering out people that you know won't be a good fit
Yeah.
before even having to meet with them.
Agree. So the next piece, if we talk about vision and we do our little self-assessment, and then we start to think about delegation, we walk through the 10 questions, we get somebody in place to work on that task and support us with it. That's wonderful. And that's what we have to do, but it doesn't stop there. So when you think about rowing teams, it's not 8 people or 10 people with just having strong arms. They have to be in a rhythm, and they have to have a cadence that allows them to row together. If this is your boat and you're delegating things to all these people, you still have to have a rhythm and a cadence to keep it all together. The next piece that I encourage business owners to do is to establish a meeting cadence to keep everybody aligned and everybody in rhythm. And when it's a larger team, I tend to say that they should have a daily meeting. And people start to cringe when you say daily meetings, because meetings also get a bad rap along with delegation. But the daily meeting is like 5 to 10 minutes. You get together, tell me what you're working on, tell me what's happening. Does anybody have any problems that they need help with? If not, great. And you just move on. But it allows you to get in front of problems before they become bigger problems and to have somebody maybe spinning their wheels for a week or a month. So that's one cadence that I recommend. The next cadence is weekly meetings. And if you've got a leadership team, I would have a weekly leadership team. If you don't have a leadership team, I would make sure that you're having one-on-ones with any of your team members. When you do those weekly meetings, it allows you to really understand the progress they've made on whatever you've delegated them or to them. And you're able to have like conversations to adjust. So there was a person that I worked with who really struggled to delegate, and we went through, we talked about the vision, we talked about how to make decisions about what to delegate, and we talked about this rhythm piece too, but she didn't necessarily grab onto all of the pieces of it, right? So she would just delegate and not do check-ins. She did not do a good job of telling people what done looked like. And pretty soon she was full-blown burnout and quit, just stopped everything because she couldn't do it alone, but she didn't delegate well. So you want to make sure that you're very intentional about your delegation, but and also having these cadences, these meeting cadences. So daily meetings, 5 to 10 minutes each, weekly meetings, and then also monthly meetings where you are able to do some individual coaching and support. And then quarterly meetings also to align on strategy. Josh, I would imagine that you guys have some kind of meeting cadence. Tell me what it is at ABA Impact.
I do have a question that stems from this, but at ABA Impact, we have daily meetings with me and Ricardo. We talk about like, how did the calls go that day? Did you run into any issues? I don't really have an actual structure for it because it's really just tell me about your day and the calls and just whatever issues you ran into, and like, let's workshop it. If you
Awesome.
are getting told no a lot, then I'm going to practice saying no to you, and then we'll figure it out. And then I meet with Derek about once a week to go over new sales for the IT company. Just to be clear, there's two companies that we're involved in, is the IT company and then ABA Impact.
Yeah.
We have different meetings for both. We don't really have, it's not like a set in stone, like we meet every month or we meet every quarter, but usually when something big happens, a big change happens, we review how the year went at the end of the year, things like that. And one of the reasons that we don't have set in stone meetings is because, and this is going to stem into my question, is we have found that our company, but we're a very small team, so this isn't going to work for everybody, and maybe we were just doing it wrong. But it seemed like when we had those weekly, daily, monthly meetings all the time, we would meet up and then we wouldn't have anything to talk about. And it would just be like this busy work kind of meeting. And my mom works for one of the big electronic health record software companies. And she's told me how the meetings are so silly. They meet every day and they're like just reading off of a page and like as like a formality, and there's really nothing valuable that actually happens in those meetings. And so they're basically just meeting just to meet. My mom was like, I could be helping a customer do something, or I could go for a walk outside or something like that while this meeting's going on, but it's mandatory and they just have to meet just for the sake of meeting. So like, what tips do you have to make those meetings actually impactful and not just like busy work that they're just meeting up just so they can say they had a meeting?
Yeah, great question. I have specific agendas for each one of those meetings. And that's why meetings get a bad rap. You should never meet just to meet. And if the cadence doesn't work, then you just go with the cadence that does. So I'll give you an example. One of the clients that I work with is a mother-daughter team. That's it. That's the team. They have two other people that work with them, but essentially they're the team. So we talked about daily meetings, weekly meetings, monthly meetings, and quarterly. And they tried daily meetings for a while and they went, no, we're just, and it was a 5-minute call meeting. And they're like, we don't need to do this. Perfect. If your weekly meetings are sufficient and you're able to not do the daily, then don't do the daily. Yeah. So it has to be practical and work for you. But what I find is to say, or to answer your question about what suggestions do I have in agenda and follow the agenda. I'll give you a flip story. There's a company that I work with, an ABA company. They had weekly meetings and they had monthly meetings already that they were doing when I started working with them. And all we did was tweak the agendas a little bit. And now they tell me like their meetings are 100% more productive than they were before because they have an agenda. And before they were showing up and they didn't know what the agenda was, and nor did they know what they were responsible for and how they fit in. So having that very specific agenda and having everybody know that you get more done.
It sounds so simple and obvious. I know one thing that I'm going to do
Right?
after we get off this call is I'm going to go make an agenda for our meetings. So
Yeah, let me know if you want any help. I'm happy to help with it. And then the quarterly meetings, you should get strategic. So don't wait until the end of the year to have a strategic overview. I tell people that you should know every week if you're winning the week or losing the week. You should not wait to the end of the month to know that you're losing. You can't pivot, right? And you can't make changes. So that's part of having the weekly is really knowing and understanding. You look at your metrics and understand what you need to focus on. And quarterly allows you to see what does our cash flow look like? What does our revenue look like? And then reestablish your goals for the next 90 days. There's a ton of research out there that you need to have a strategic meeting every 90 days because people and systems and processes will start to wobble after 90 days. So you need to get all the players in the room and realign on what is our strategy, where are we headed, what's our vision, and then set the goals for each quarter. So if there's one thing, like I heard you say that you guys maybe get together at the end of the year, and look, I would encourage you to move to quarterly and really look at your strategy each quarter.
yeah, and I think part of the reason why it works for us a little bit differently is because like we have automatic reports that get emailed to us from our system. So I guess we don't really have any formal meetings, but we'll talk about what's our monthly recurring revenue because we get a report every Friday. So we're always keeping eyes on it. We're not always necessarily meeting about it and reviewing it because maybe we should, but I think that we probably should definitely meet more than once a year, but we do talk about it. It's just not like at a formal meeting. But we're also a very small team. It's pretty much me and Derek, and then everyone else, just the frontline people. So they're not really involved in those types of discussions.
Yeah. Even that mother-daughter team that I'm helping, each quarter we do a reset and look at all their strategic plans for the next 90 days. So, yeah. That's
That would be
good.
a good idea.
And that reporting there's nothing better than getting good data. As behaviorists, we want good data. That's how we make decisions on how we implement treatment. It's the same for businesses. That's how you make decisions is to have good numbers and know what that looks like. So tying it back to delegation, you want a cadence to make sure that who you're delegating things to and as business owners, teams build, you want a cadence to make sure that everybody knows what everybody else is working on too. So you don't have 3 people trying to do something. Only one person needs to do it. And then the last piece, and this kind of goes to what I was talking about earlier of the person who really didn't do a great job of delegation. I'm encouraging people here, the listeners here, to just grab your calendar and develop a 7-day plan. So it's one thing to sit and listen to a webinar or a live stream or even go to a conference. It's a whole nother thing to take what you're learning and put it into action. I'm encouraging you to develop your action plan, a 7-day action plan. So start with picking the one thing that you know you should not be doing and who can do it at least 80% as well as you can. And then use the delegation questions to help you really get very clear on all of those pieces and then share it with whomever you're delegating so that you're able to really kick that off with those clear expectations. And then step back and let them do it. sometimes that can be a hard piece too, right? Is you hand it off, but then you're double checking their work and you're checking in with them every hour to see if they need help. And that's the other reason why those meeting cadences help, is if they know that you're going to have a one-on-one with them in a week, they know that they've got your support, and the other communications are not necessarily micromanagement then. So step back, but again, make sure you have those regular cadences set up, and having them set up, everybody knows about them and it doesn't feel like micromanagement. And then maybe just paying attention to some of the time and space that it frees up for you, and where you might be able to put your attention that you haven't been able to. We talked earlier about focusing on less things. So what are you doing with your time? Are you zeroing in on things that are more important? Are you maybe getting out of the office a little bit earlier and going to your child's baseball game? How are you spending that time? And I would say use it for one of two things. Either use it for strategy and focusing on other components, or use it for joy in your life and your world. And then just continue to do that, right? Reflect on what's working, change those things that are not working, and then hit the repeat button. Find one more thing on your plate that you shouldn't be doing and hand it off. One piece of advice is don't try to overhaul everything all at once. Really start small, take one task, focus on that, have success there, and then grab another task. It's not a race, it's a journey. And as I was sitting in on the webinar with all of those academics on the science of delegation, everybody recognizes how hard it is to let go. And there's reasons that it's hard to let go. Be kind to yourself, but also take some steps. Be intentional. And it's small steps that really make change. It's when you take on too much that change feels overwhelming. It's definitely doable, but just don't bite it all off at one time.
Yeah, and even in the stuff that we're doing, there's a lot of shiny objects that we're like we want to do that and that, but then Derek is our shiny object guy, and I'm more of like all right, hold on, let's wait. Let's put that on the list, but let's get back to making sure that we're properly managing what we already have. But that it's really good that's one of the things I like about working with Derek is we balance each other out in that way, where he sees a shiny object and he's super excited about it. And eventually we get to it, but got to make sure we're taking care of the core things first. And
right,
like you said, knowing when to delegate or add something else or hire a new employee. And we have a saying in our program where people will ask, when should I hire somebody? Or when should I delegate something? And our saying is, your business will tell you. Like,
yes.
if you have your organizational strategy set up properly and your mission, vision, your primary, everything like that set up properly, and you learn how to speak the language of your business will tell you.
Yep, it will. But it does take having all of those things set up. I think where people get stuck in the decision is when they don't have those organizational strategies and they don't have their mission and vision and their SOPs, and they really don't understand what their next step is. Then it is hard to make a decision because not only does your team not know where you're going, but you don't know where you're going either. So really building clarity around that strategic plan and then all the organizational pieces that go with it is crucial for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. I mentioned a couple times, but I do have a guide for the listeners, and you can download it here. Oh, and if you're having any challenges with that, shoot me an email. My email's pretty simple. I guess I don't even have it on here. It's Jackie@JackieVick.com, and I'd be happy to help you. Also offering a free 30-minute strategy session with any of the listeners and anybody from the community, Josh. So would love to be able to support however I can. My passion is making sure that kids get treatment, and kids can only get treatment if businesses stay in business and thrive and do well. So whatever I can to help, I want to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I encourage everybody to schedule that and take advantage of that, because One of the things that we did in our outreach over the past year, we made about 30,000 phone calls to ABA business owners. We spent about 1,200 hours of just one-on-one calls, helping them workshop their problems. And it all stemmed back to a lack of organizational strategy, most of the challenges. And we would do follow-up calls within a year, and about 20% of the businesses that we would call back didn't exist anymore. It closed down for one reason or another. Having your organizational strategy together, being able to delegate, all of these core business principles that you need to start, scale, and grow, and even exit strategy as well. It's really important at the day for the kiddos, because the last thing that we want is for people to not really understand like what it takes to run and scale and grow a business. We get a bunch of clients for ABA, and then we close down, and now they're back on a wait list somewhere. So that's, and because we've had conversations in the past before, we get on a call with somebody and the person will say, I'm working as a BCBA for somebody, for another company, and I'm getting paid $55 an hour, and I can see they're billing out $95 an hour, and I want that all for myself. And it sounds good at first glance, but then when you actually do the math, you realize in order to make the same amount of money that you're making as a BCBA, you would need about 10 to 15 employees, maybe more. And then you get into this position where I don't know if I want to manage that people. So you need to know that ahead of time. So you know what the full picture of running a business actually is before you get into it, before you take on a bunch of clients. And then, you start to realize after the fact what it actually is. And then you end up closing down, and now those kids are back on a wait list.
Exactly. I love that you guys do that, because that's a lot of pain, time, anxiety, and a whole lot of effort that goes into opening a business. And if people don't have that realization ahead of time, that what a challenge to think about doing all of that and then not understanding all of it. So I love that you guys have that piece and can help people make that assessment.
Yeah, starting, getting credentials, contracting, all of that, like that's waiting for Medicaid to pay out 3 to 6 months down the road, like all of that. That sounds like a huge nightmare just to have to close down. But I really appreciate having you on. This was a great conversation, just like it has been the last few times we've met. So do you have any last tips that you want to share before we sign off?
Yeah, I think just a note of inspiration. You can do this. You totally can do this, but don't try to take it all on at once. Just take it step by step, make some small steps and make changes, and things will happen.
Awesome. I'll make sure, Jackie, your contact information will be in the description. When we share the recording, will go up on our YouTube channel, and then we'll share that into the Facebook group. So again, I appreciate having you on here.
My pleasure, Josh. It's been great.
Thank
All
you.
right.
See you.
Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
You too.
You're already doing the work, investing your time, your energy, and your vision. So let's make it count. Build something that works without breaking you. The EBCBA Blueprint is the way. Get started for free with our foundation course.